नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। त्वम् आत्मनात्मानम् अवेयम् परस्य पुंस परमात्मनः कलाम् अजं प्रजातं जगतः शिवाय तन् महानुभावभ्युदयोदिगण्यताम्.
Hare Krishna, my humble obeisances to all the assembled devotees. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself can know the super soul personality of Godhead because you are present as the plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please, therefore, describe the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, more vividly.
Text 22. Idam hi pumsa tapasa shrutasya va smitasya shuktasya cha buddhidatayoho avichutorthaha kavibhi nirupito yadutama shloka gunanuvarnanam.
Learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of the advancement of knowledge, namely austerities, study of the Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of hymns and charity, culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord, who is defined in choice poetry.
Text 23. Aham puratita bhave bhavam mune dasyastu kasyachana vedavadinam nirupito balaka eva yoginam shushrushaane pravarshe nirvivikshatam.
O Muni, in the last millennium I was born as the son of a certain maidservant engaged in the service of Brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service.
Text 24. ते मय्यापेत खिला चापलेड भर के दान्ते धृता कृतान के नुवर्तिनि चक्रुः कृपां यद्यपि तुल्य दर्शनः शुश्रूषमाणे मुनयोल्पभाषिणी.
Although they were impartial by nature, those followers of the Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I'm concerned, I'm self-control and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty and I did not speak more than required.
उच्चस्थले पाण अनुमोदितः द्विजयः सकृत स्म भुञ्जे तदपास्त किल्बिषः एवं प्रवृत्तस्य विशुद्धचेतसः तद्धर्म एवात्मरुचिः प्रजायते.
Once only, by their permission, I took the remnants of their food, and by so doing all my sins were at once eradicated. Thus being engaged, I became purified in heart, and at that time the very nature of the transcendentalist became attractive to me.
तत्रान्वहं कृष्णकथा प्रगायताम् अनुग्रहेणाश्रणवं मनोहरः ता श्रद्धयामेनुपदं विशृण्वतः प्रियाश्रावैषि अङ्गममा भवदृचिः.
O Vyasdeva, in that association and by the mercy of those great Vedantists, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna, and thus listening attentively, my taste for hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step.
तस्मिंस्तदालभरुचेर्महामते प्रियाश्रवसि अस्खलिता मतिर्मम ययाहम् एतत् सदसत्समायया पाशे मयि ब्रह्मणि कल्पितं परे.
O great sage, as soon as I got a taste of the personality of Godhead, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. And was my taste developed, and as my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings, for both the Lord and I are transcendental.
इत्थं शरतप्रवृशिकावृतो हरे विष्णुर्वतो मेऽनुसवं यशोमलं सङ्कीर्त्यमाणमुनिभिर्महात्मभिर्भक्तिः प्रवृतात्मा रजस्तमोपः.
Thus, during 2 seasons, the rainy season and autumn, I had the opportunity to hear these great souled sages constantly chant the unadulterated glories of Lord Hari. As the flow of my devotional service began, the coverings of the modes of passion and ignorance vanished.
तस्यैवं मेऽनुरक्तस्य प्रश्रितस्य हतैनशः श्रद्धदानस्य बालस्य दान्तस्यानुचरस्य च.
I was very much attached to those sages. I was gentle in behavior, and all my sins were eradicated in their service. In my heart, I had strong faith in them. I had subjugated the senses, and I was strictly following them with body and mind.
30. ज्ञानं बृहत्तमं यत् साक्षात् भगवतोदितम् अन्ववोचं गमिष्यन्तः कृपया दीनवत्सलः.
As they were leaving, those Bhakti Vedantas, who are very kind to poor-hearted souls, instructed me in that most confidential subject which is instructed by the personality of Godhead himself.
येनैवाहं भगवतो वासुदेवस्य मायानुभावम् अविदं येन गच्छति तत्पदम्.
By that confidential knowledge, I could understand clearly the influence of the energy of Lord Sri Krishna, the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything, by knowing that one can return to him and personally meet him.
एतत् संसुचितं ब्रह्मं तापत्रयाचिकित्सितं यदीश्वरे भगवती कर्म ब्रह्माणि भावितम्.
O Brahmana O Brahmana Vyasadeva, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna.
आमयो यश्च भूतानां जायते येन सुव्रता तदेव ह्यमायं द्रव्यं न पुनते चिकित्सितम्.
O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing?
34. एवं नृणां क्रिया योगः सर्वसंसृति हेतवः त एवात्मा विनाशया कल्पन्ते कल्पितः परे.
Thus, when all man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which caused his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work.
35. यदत्र क्रियते कर्म भगवत परितोषणं ज्ञानं यत्तद् अधीनं हि भक्ति योगा समन्वितम्.
Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor.
36. कुर्वाण यत्र कर्माणि भगवचित्सया श्रकृत गृह्णन्ते गुणनमामि कृष्णयानुस्मरन्ते च.
While performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers him, his names, and his qualities.
Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Naya Nirudhaya Namah Sankarshanaya Cha.
Let us all chant the glories of Vasudeva, along with his plenary expansions Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarasana.
इति मूर्त्यभिधानेन मन्त्रमूर्तिम् अमूर्तिकम् यजति यज्ञपुरुषं स संसग दर्शनपुमान्.
Thus he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who has no material form.
Text 39. Imam swanigamam brahman avedyamanat anushtitam adanme jnanam aishwaryam swasmin bhavam cha keshavaha.
O Brahmana, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas, then with the spiritual opulences, and then with his intimate loving service.
40. Tvamapyabhadrashruta vishrutam vibhoh समाप्यते येन विदं बुभूषितं प्रख्याहि दुःखैर्मुहुरर्दितमानं मनां संक्लेशा निर्वाणम् उशन्ति नन्यथा.
Please, therefore, describe the Almighty Lord's activities, which you've learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men, and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people, who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. Hare Krishna, please forgive any mistakes.
Hare Krishna. Sharaja Mataji, just leave. Okay, I was going to say just leave the share there. Share the screen. I will show you how to remove the purport and the things in a minute. I don't want to take a try.
Okay.
But in the meantime, thank you so much for the recitation. Sumadur Mataji, the Sanskrit was amazing. So nicely recited, so confident. And Namata Mataji, the English translation, of course, was very, very nicely done. So, yeah, what you need to do is go to the, exactly. When you're there, just go up all the way top. And you see where it says default view?
Okay.
Yeah, just click that.
Okay.
And then go click on advanced view. And then remove from there, just remove the Devagni.
Oh, Devanagari. Okay.
Right? Remove the synonyms.
Okay.
Remove the purport. So now if you scroll down, you just see exactly.
Amazing. Thank you, Prabhuji. This makes it very easy. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Shall I stop sharing
now?
Yes,
you can stop sharing now. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Okay, devotees, let me share my screen. Okay, so we are continuing our reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 5th chapter, entitled Narad Muni's Instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. And today we'll be on verse 24. But before that, we will just do the recap so far. So verses 1 to 7, now there's inquiries, Vyasadev's response. So the whole inquiry, now the Muni says to Vyasadeva, you have compiled so many wonderful literatures. Why are you so despondent? And Vyasadeva says, I don't actually know, but maybe you can tell me. And then Vyasadeva says to him, actually, the reason is that you have not glorified the Supreme Lord enough. And then, so it's an 8 to 22, very important verses. Now it explains the importance of describing Krishna's pastimes to Vyasadeva. And then this particular section we're on, 23 to 31, Narad Muni actually narrates about his past life, very interesting pastime about what he was in the previous life, which is what we're going through now. So we'll do the invocation now. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswati vyasam tato jayam udirayat nashtaprayashu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati yuktam sloke bhakti bhagati nastiti krishne spadam upagate dharma jnanaditi shaha kalo nashta dushamesha puranatko tunodita. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swami Niti Namino Nirvicheta Superneta Vadinam Jarasapitam Bhakupade Gata Prana Nami Bhakti Charu Padam Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namino Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Nirvisheta Pranivadi Pasha Visheta Visheta Padiki Jai. So today's verse 24. So beside the Sanskrit verse, Te mai apekta ilakcha pelabake Dante drita kridanake nuvartini Chakru kripam yadyapitu yadarshinaha Shushru samane munayo papashini. Translation. Although they were impartial by nature, those followers of the Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I was concerned, I was self-controlled and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty, and I did not speak more than required. So, nice verse. Narad Muni in his previous life, as a boy, speaking about this experience that he had. And a couple of things on the verse. Before we go to the purport, a couple of things that we can speak on this verse. So, Narada's qualities, not really Narada, it was his Narada in his previous life. His name is not given actually anywhere. I couldn't find his name in this particular. Before this, there's a name given when he was a Gandharva. I forget that name, but there was a name there. And then he caused some offense, and he was then cursed to become a son of a maidservant. But that name we haven't got. At least we haven't. Prabhupada hasn't mentioned it. So we keep calling him Narada. So these are his qualities. So first one is Dante. Dante means having control the senses. And next quality is Adrita Krida Nake, which means without being accustomed to sporting habits. So most of the kids, forget about the kids, even the adults. I myself, until recently, I was really addicted to cricket. I would, follow all the matches. I would waste so much time, watching it and listening to commentaries and stuff like that. But these are the things not just boys do, but even adults do. Then he was Anuvartini. He was obedient. He was Alpabhashini. This is important. One who does not speak more than required. This is something that I need to learn. I speak far too much. And I sometimes get in trouble because of speaking too much. So these are the nice qualities that we can think about. These are the qualities which are favorable for spiritual progress. Of course, controlling senses it goes without saying, and then being not wasting time in sporting habits, being obedient, which means following instructions of the acharyas, following even instructions of the temple authorities, without being too egoistic. And then Alpapasini, like I say, only speak what is required to be speak. This also refers to Prajalpa. We waste so much time speaking about, so and so did this and so did this, and look what did you hear what he did? All that goes on. So all that means we should literally speak what we need to speak in terms of our daily interactions. But then any spare time we have, we speak about Krishna. Something else I wanted to mention about the verse is about the translation. So we have, for example, you have two words here. Anuvarti is actually Anuvartini. So you see the apostrophe before the N here. That represents a missing vowel. Just for the sake of the meter. We also have it, don't we? In English, for example, you can write do not. Or you can write don't. Both mean the same, don't they? So for the missing words, D-O-N, then you have an apostrophe N-T. That means like a letter missing there. Similarly here, you will see many times, you see this apostrophe, which means there's something missing there. So in the translation, you will see it says Anu Vartini. But here, when you read the verse, you read it as Nuvartini because of the meter. But anyway, my point here was, so there you see the N. N is without a dot at the bottom. So that is N, the hard N sound. And then you see Alpa, again, you get similar situation with the A here. A is missing, so it's not Alpa, it's Alpa. Alpa Bhasini. So there you have a dot underneath the end, so that's Ana, Ana, soft Na. So it's important to pronounce those properly. I think Sumadur Mataji did pronounce it quite nicely, but just in case we didn't know what the meaning of these dots were. So this here is Na and this is Na. So it is Nuvartini and Bhasini, like that. You will find that when you pronounce it properly, then the verse itself sounds very nice. So we'll go on to the purport. I've got 2 pages, so I'll invite anybody who wants to recite, to please just unmute yourselves and read the first page, and we'll have somebody else do the second. Anyone just unmute?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, in the event, please. Yeah.
Right. Okay, Hare Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, all the Vedas are searching after me. Lord Sri Chaitanya says that in the Vedas, the subject matters are only 3, namely to establish the relation of the living entities with the personality of Godhead, perform the relative duties in devotional service, and thus achieve the ultimate goal, back to Godhead. As such, Vedanta Vedis, or the followers of the Vedanta, indicate the pure devotees of the personality of Godhead. Such Vedanta Vedis, or the Bhakti Vedantas, are impartial in distributing the transcendental knowledge of devotional service. To them, no one is enemy or friend, no one is educated or uneducated, no one is especially favorable, or no one is unfavorable. The Bhakti Vedantas see that the people in general are wasting time in false sensuous things. Their business is to get the ignorant mass of people to re-establish the lost relationship of personality of Godhead. By such endeavor, even the most forgotten souls is rose up to the senses of the spiritual life, and thus been indicated that Bhakti Vedantas, the people in general, gradually progress on the path of transcendental realization. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Interven. Now, second page, somebody please, anybody?
Should I do that, Prabhu?
Yes, please, Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. So the Vedanta Vadis initiated the boy even before he became self-controlled and was thus detached from childish sporting, etc. But before the initiation, the boy, became more and more advanced in discipline, which is very essential for one who wishes to make progress in the line. In the system of Varnashram Dharma, which is the beginning of actual human life, small boys after 5 years of age are sent to become brahmacharis at the Guru's ashram, where these things are systematically taught to every boy, be he a king's son or the son of an ordinary citizen. The training was compulsory not only to create good citizens of the state, but also to prepare the boy's future life for realization. The irresponsible life of sense enjoyment was unknown to the children of the followers of the Varnashram system. A boy was even injected with spiritual acumen before being placed by the father and mother. Thus, both the father and the mother were responsible for the boy's success in being liberated from the material bondage. That is the process of successful family planning. It is to beget children for complete perfection, without being self-controlled, without being disciplined, and without being fully obedient. No one can become successful in following the instructions of the spiritual master, and without doing so, no one is able to go back to Godhead. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu. Thank you. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnanati Nirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Sapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kada mahyam dadati swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lagita Shri Vishakhasya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Vipasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, as we normally do, we'll just dive into the purport and pick up the main points and then let's try and churn those main points, try and connect them to other parts of the Shastra so we can get a better realization of what Prabhupada is saying. So he starts off the purport saying in Bhagavad Gita. So one more point I want to make here about translation. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit pedantic about this, but I myself try and pronounce things as best as possible. So I notice many times people pronounce Bhagavad Gita as Bhagavad Gita. So there's two scriptures. There's Srimad Bhagavatam and there is Bhagavad Gita. So here you can see on the B there is no mark. So Bhagavatam you will see on the B there will be the mark. But here is nothing. So it's Bhagavat, not Bhagavat. Even when you look at the Bhagavad Gita, if you have it in Hindi or Gujarati, you will see it's written Bhagavat, not Bhagavat. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, all the Vedas are searching after me. So anybody knows which verse he's referring to here? A famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter. 15:15, anybody? Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishta pata smrtir jnanam apohanam cha vedaishcha sarve rahameva vedyo vedanta krit veda chaham. I bet as soon as I put it up, everybody knew this verse is quite there. Everybody knows it. So this third line is what Prabhupada is referring to. Vedaisha sarve aham eva vedyo. Translation says, I'm seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. And it's a long purport, I just picked up one particular part from there to explain what Prabhupada is saying. Prabhupada is saying, the Vedas give us direction by which to understand Krishna and the process of realizing him. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra 114 confirms this in the following words. Tattu saman deyat. One can attain perfection in 3 stages. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing the different processes, one can approach him. And at the end, one can attain the supreme goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, the purpose of the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas, and the goal of the Vedas are clearly defined. So this particular point about these 3 aspects of of the Vedas is continuing in the next line that Prabhupada says. So he says, Lord Sri Chaitanya says that in the Vedas, the subject matters are only 3. So interesting, right? Because that purport was picked from Bhagavad Gita in chapter 15. And in this purport, today's purport, Prabhupada is talking about the same thing. He says, in the Vedas, the subject matters are only 3. Namely, to establish the relation of the living entity with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, perform the relative duties in devotional service, and thus achieve the ultimate goal, back to Godhead. So these are the 3 purposes of human life in one sense, right? And these are the 3 traits in all Vedic knowledge. So I'm sure you all know what are the 3 these three things in Sanskrit.
Sambandha,
Yes.
sorry.
Absolutely. Sambandha, Avideya, Prayojana. This is exactly what we're talking about. So it's here it is said in this clip that there are 3 purposes in the Vedas. 1, to understand our relationship with Krishna, that's called Sambandha. Another is to act according to that relationship, Abhideya. And the 3rd is to reach the ultimate goal, Prayojana. And then the ultimate goal, here in this my lovely clip I found, it says, this is the art. And this art is also the secret of Bhagavad Gita. Total absorption in the thoughts of Sri Krishna. Total absorption in the thoughts of Sri Krishna. There are 2 very similar verses in the Bhagavad Gita that talk about that. Can somebody say which verses they are? One in the 9th chapter, one in the 18th chapter. Look, always think of me.
Manmana bhava mad bhakto mad dhyani mam namaskuru. Then I don't know.
Yes. So there's exactly. So the first, in the 9th chapter, he says the first 2 lines are the same. Manmana bhava mad bhakto mad dhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishesi yukvaivam atma nammat parayana. That one. Translation is very similar, but there's slightly different words there. And in the 18th chapter, 1865, it says, Manmana bhava mad bhakto mad dhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishesi satyam te prati jane priyosine. So always thinking of Krishna. So this lovely clip was you're sitting there and always having your mind full of Krishna's thoughts. That is the goal. That's the prayojana. Everything that we're doing in Krishna consciousness is to bring us to this stage. And if we get to the stage where no other thoughts come to our mind, that is perfection. So Prabhupada continues in the purport. Such Vedantavadis or Bhakti Vedantas are impartial in distributing the transcendental knowledge of devotional service. To them, no one is enemy or friend. No one is educated or uneducated. No one is especially favorable. No one is unfavorable. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adilila 723, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks about this beautiful this thing. He says, Patra vichara nahi. Patra vichaya nahi, nahi sthana. Yei yaha paya taha kare premadan. Talking about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. It says, in distributing the love of Godhead, actually this verse is spoken by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He says, in distributing the love of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates did not consider who was fit candidate and who was not, nor whether such distribution should or should not take place. They made no conditions. Wherever they got the opportunity, the members of the Panchatattva distributed the love of God. So this is what he was doing. To the extent that when he was passing through the Jharikand forest, he even was singing and preaching to the animals. So he didn't see any difference. He was just looking at the pure souls. And the animals, even the wild animals, you can see the tiger standing up there. Even the wild animals could connect with the Supreme Lord, and they became harmless, and they were also chanting, it is said. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates did not discriminate in that way. You know, oh, this one is a learned person, we can only teach him, you know, only the Brahmanas can learn Sanskrit, some people used to say. Only Brahmanas can do verses, you know, stuff like that. No. Just preach widely, and this is Prabhupada's philosophy too. Srila Prabhupada, okay, before we get there, we'll just look at the purport. One of the purport things I picked up from that. There are some rascals, Prabhupada using this word rascals. Whoever's listening to Prabhupada's lectures, you will see at least once in a lecture he will mention this, and sometimes repeatedly in a lecture he will go on about this. He used to use the word rascal. And rascal, you know, I was giving a class many years ago in one of somebody's home, and a person objected to this. He says, you know, why does Prabhupada need to use such rude words? And then I said to him, actually, rascal is not a rude word. Rascal is just somebody who doesn't behave well. You know, it's not a rude word. It's just rascal. Prabhupada just chose that word. People who are trying to mislead other people are rascals in Prabhupada's view, right? Misleading people in terms of giving them false philosophy. So here it says, there are some rascals who dare to speak against the mission of Lord Chaitanya by criticizing the Krishna conscious movement for accepting Europeans and Americans as Brahmanas and offering them sannyas. But here is an authoritative statement that in distributing love of Godhead, one should not consider whether the recipients are Europeans, Americans, Hindus, Muslims, etc. Krishna consciousness movement should be spread wherever possible, and one should accept those who thus become Vaishnavas as being greater than Brahmanas, Hindus, or Indians. Very powerful, right? This is just amazing, because every other religion you have this narrow-mindedness, but here, you know, completely open. Anybody who's willing to listen, you come, everybody is welcome. And this is one thing that attracted me to Krishna consciousness, to be very honest. And Prabhupada followed the same system. You can see Prabhupada here in the early days sitting with these devotees in America. Now, do you think all these people, now if Prabhupada went to America thinking that I'm going to only spread this mission to the learned people, where would we be? There'd be no ISKCON today. And most of these people you see in these pictures, they become amazing devotees. So very important. And oh yeah, this is talking about, you know, caste and religions. Anybody know what that picture is, that last one? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is carrying somebody.
Haridas Thakur.
Haridas Thakur.
Yes, Haridas Thakur. So you see, Haridas Thakur was born in a Muslim family, Muhammadan family, Prabhupada calls it. But he became a devotee at a very young age, and he was addicted to chanting the name of the Lord. He was chanting, how many was it? 164 rounds. You know, we can't chant 16 rounds. He was chanting 164 rounds a day. And this is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him the title Namacharya. So this particular picture depicts when he left this world, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself did the final rites for him. So you see, now in pure Brahmana families, they would not even touch a Muslim. This is how narrow-minded they are, right? But so this particular verse and this part of this purport is speaking about this, that one should not discriminate. Then Prabhupada continues, so the Vedantavadis initiated the boy even before he became self-controlled and was detached from childish sporting, etc. So we all know the story. Yesterday, I think Divya Gaurangi Mataji must have also started the story how Narad Muni, in his previous life, just because his mother was serving these Vedantists in the Chaturmasya, he became attached to them by helping them, serving them, hearing them. But the point made in this particular line of purport is interesting. It is said here that the Bhakti Vedantas they showed him mercy, not because he was a well-behaved child. In this verse, we spoke about how he was well-behaved, obedient, not speaking too much and all that, right? But Prabhupada is trying to make a point here that he became like that because of the mercy shown. So it says here that he was initiated even before he became self-control, which means he was maybe a normal boy at the time, but by showing causeless mercy, they blessed him, and because of that blessing, because of that mercy, he developed the good qualities, which in turn became the cause of further mercy. You see, it's a cycle like that. So similarly, when we are doing our service, when we serve somebody, first of all, to be able to give them a chance to serve somebody, to serve a pure devotee, that itself is a cause of mercy. And then by serving that person, we get more mercy, and that snowballs like that. That's why association and serving devotees is so important. So that's the point we made here. Then I went to speak about the Varnashram system. So in the system of Varnashram Dharma, which is the beginning of actual human life. So it's important, right? Unless you have Dharma, here we're speaking specifically about Varnashram Dharma, but unless you have Dharma, your human life doesn't begin. How many people we know who are living life of just sense gratification, morning to night, working hard to make money, have no idea and no time for Dharma. So they are not really in human life. Dharmena hina pashubhi samana. So persons who don't have Dharma in their lives, they're as good as pashus, animals. Anyway, to continue this, it says, which is the beginning of actual human life. Small boys after 5 years of age were sent to become brahmacharis at the Guru's ashram, where these things were systematically taught to everyone. So everybody is, I'm sure, familiar with the Varnashram system, but we'll just quickly revise it. So we have 4 Varnas. So we have Shudras, who are the workers, laborers, etc. Then we have the Vaishyas, who are the merchants or farmers. Kshatriyas, who are the rulers, the kings, the protectors. And at the top, you have the Brahmanas, who are the intelligent class. The whole system works perfectly with this kind of system. It's not that any one is lower than the other. Shudras here, maybe in this hierarchy, it shows lower, but actually each one of them is important in their own position. So it worked in harmony, this particular system. And then the ashramas, of course, are brahmachari ashram. When you are before marriage, you focus on your study and everything. Then grihastha ashram, where you have you're married and you begin a family life, have children, etc. Vanaprastha ashram, where at the age of 50, 55, 60, you retire from business or work and let your grown-up children take care of the family. And then sannyas, when you actually leave home and let the children manage everything, you leave home at this stage and completely focus on your devotional service. Now, in this day and age, sannyas is not possible. In fact, it's one of the things which is forbidden in the age of Kali, because we do not have the wherewithals to survive alone in the jungle or whatever. But our sannyas would be to actually give up all activities, still live in the house, but give up all the activities and just focus more and more on devotional service. That is our sannyas. Sannyas also has 4 steps to it. 4 stages of sannyas. Is anybody aware of that? Those 4 stages? I have covered this in this classes before. Anybody know these stages? So sannyas is not just one step. One day you are at home, next day you leave. No, it's like that. It'd be too hard even for a very devotional person. So it says kuti chakra. Kuti chakra is the first stage, where you actually leave home but stay nearby. So that way, it's not a complete, cold turkey, as they say. So you go, you stay nearby, and your family will still look after you in terms of supplying you food and all that, but you are slightly detached from, so you're not living at home every day. Then Bahudaka. Bahudaka means by this time you're now used to having spent some time in Kutichaka stage, we then move to Bahudaka. Then you stop, at this stage you refuse the food from home, but you go to different homes and get your alms, get your daily bread, basically. And then Parivasakacharya. At this stage, you're now more proficient, you don't need to rely on anything, and you can travel far and wide preaching. Parivasakacharya. And finally, Paramhamsa. And that is the final stage. Your Paramhamsa stage, you become completely detached. You are close, very close to the Lord at this stage. This is like 4 stages of sannyas. Let's see what. So the boy says, I think it's the last slide, I think. The boy was even injected with spiritual acumen before being placed by the father in the womb of the mother. Both the father and mother were responsible for the boy's success in being liberated from the material bondage. So what is Prabhupada speaking about? Which sanskara? Particular sanskara that is
Garbhadhan.
Garbhadhan.
Yes. Garbhadhan sanskara. So civilized people, nowadays these things have disappeared completely. But I think devotees, we should bring this back into our families. So before conception, this sanskar is performed, where it is explained that I think the couple would fast, or maybe have only milk and fruit until a certain time. They would chant 50 rounds of the Maha Mantra that day, and then do some special prayers, and then conception would begin. In that way, you're inviting a very pure soul into the womb. So this is what he's speaking about. So if these prayers and this sanskar is performed properly, then the progeny will automatically be very pious and very devotional, and it will be easy for parents to guide them spiritually. Because if we can't guide our children spiritually, then it says in Lord Rishabdev. Lord Rishabdev in the 5th canto, 5th chapter, it says, Guru na sasyat, svajana na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, daivam na tatsyan, na patishta sasyan, namo chayadya samupeta mrityam. Very powerful. One who cannot deliver his dependence from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. So we should not take any position of responsibility for others if we cannot guide them spiritually. That's the point of this particular verse. When it talks about, I can understand spiritual master, father, husband, mother, I still don't understand why it says here, worship demigods, because I don't know, you can become a spiritual master by choice, you become a father by choice, you become a husband by choice, you become a mother by choice. I don't know if you can become a worshipable demigod by choice. So I don't know, it's just a little bit gray in my mind. Anyway, so this is all I had to say. It's already almost 8:40, so I will stop here and invite any comments, any corrections, realizations.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
The demigod is also actually slightly by choice, because one achieves that by your karmic propensity of, if you want to do karma kanda, you would achieve demigod type status eventually.
I see what you mean. Because yes, you're right. Because people in karma kanda level, they're performing different austerities to become something. Some want to be promoted. So actually, they're short-term and long-term. Short-term, they want just happiness in this life. Long-term, they're thinking about that next life. They're thinking, I want to be promoted to the spiritual world. Some may be thinking, I want to become Indra. I want to become a demigod. You're right. Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. Yes. Actually, I did ask this question to somebody, and that was the answer, but I had forgotten. Thank you for it. Also for me, today has been a very long day. So brain is not quite working.
Prabhuji, I'm not worthy of any corrections, but there's one correction I'd like to
Please do.
you said at the start, Prabhuji, that you talk too much. Actually, I'd like to correct you. You don't talk enough. When it comes to Krishna Katha, we'd like you to talk more and more, Prabhu. So that was my minor correction. Please forgive me.
No, thank you, Jalesh Prabhu. But I tell you, I do have a habit of talking a lot. And yes, Prajapa, of course, you should not. But even in spiritual circles, especially when I learned a lesson. Especially you're in front of senior devotees, you should speak less. I found that out because in front of my Guru Maharaj, I used to start to be very anxious to say something, right? And at times I realized that I was probably annoying him, because I always in Gujarati you say don't die, right? I don't know in Hindi or in English what you say, but like that, So that even in the spiritual circles, you can. So, for example, if Guru Maharaj is trying to say something, you will try and second guess what he's going to say next, and then that can be very annoying, So like that. That's what I meant. I will learn to do that. Thank you, though. Hare Krishna. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble thanks for your Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for the wonderful class. It was very good. My question is, in the Gurukul, the boys were taught only and the girls were taught in Gurukul separately, or in the Gurukuls, what were the girls taught?
Yeah, so the thing is, in the olden times, Rupa Mataji, there was a system where the boys went to the Gurukul, so they would actually go to the Guru's ashram, actually. And literally from the age of 10, 12, they would not come home till they're 16, 17. All those years, they spend with the Guru and they become really strong adults by the time they come out spiritually. And the girls never went to Gurus or ashrams, or even schools, to be honest. The girls remained home and they were taught by their mothers how to become wonderful housewives. That was the Vedic system.
Okay, Prabhuji. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Okay, so looks like everybody's happy. In that case, we can call it a day. Thank you so much for your patience. Like I say, I was a little bit off color today. I had a long day. I was up at 2:30 today because I went for Mangala Aarti and I gave a morning class, so quite drained right now. But thank you so much. Harivadan Prabhu, you need to switch off your camera. Sorry. Hare Krishna. Sorry, Prabhu. Okay. Devotees, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so